Unaware my husband didn't know I'd secretly built a $50 million empire. He emptied our joint account and left me for his ex. What I did next left them with nothing. He didn't just leave. He stood in the middle of a modest living room, car keys in hand, and told his wife she'd survive just fine as long as she learned to live small. Then he walked out the door to go be with the same ex he once swore he'd erase from his life. That afternoon, Emily Carter Hayes sat at the small dining table, her laptop open to their joint account. She was supposed to pay the power bill like she always did. Instead, she stared at a glowing number that made her heart stop. Balance, $0. Her husband Ryan had been quietly draining their account for days, and that morning, he'd taken every last dollar in cash. The same man who said, "We're a team," had emptied the only account that carried both their names and left without even looking back. Hours later, while Emily sat in the quiet house trying to breathe, her phone buzzed. A friend had posted a photo. Ryan, smiling wide, an arm locked around his ex, Claire. The caption read, "Second chances are worth it." People cheered them on in the comments. "Finally back with your real love. So glad you left that boring wife." They thought Emily was broken. They thought she had nothing now. They thought she would fade into the background like a discarded chapter. What no one knew, not Ryan, not Claire, not the people laughing online, was that the woman he walked out on had spent 10 years building something he never saw coming. A quiet 50 million empire hidden behind a simple life and a different last name. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you watch without subscribing, it's like letting Emily's story be written by the people who betrayed her. Hit that subscribe button, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, and let's step into what she did next together. The sound of buzzing notifications lit the room like tiny sparks, each one demanding Emily Hayes' attention. Her eyes moved fast, almost too fast, across manufacturing charts, supplier updates, and a message from her production manager asking for final approval on a shipment. Her fingers tapped the keyboard with the speed of someone used to juggling 10 emergencies at once. She looked intense, focused, almost fierce. This was the real Emily, 34 years old, founder of one of the fastest-growing wellness product brands in the country, owner of multiple patents, and silent controller of an empire most people would only dream of. But no one outside her company knew the real numbers, not even her husband. 3 days a week, she went into a downtown office Ryan thought belonged to a consulting client. In reality, that floor was hers. The lease, the payroll, the contracts, everything sat under a different name. A sharp click, metal against metal, cut through the air. Ryan was home. Without hesitation, Emily's entire posture changed. She closed 3 tabs at once, minimized the dashboard showing her $1 million revenue run rate, and pulled up a plain budgeting spreadsheet. One moment she looked like a CEO, the next like a quiet homemaker checking grocery expenses. She forced her shoulders to relax just as Ryan walked in. Ryan Hayes, 36. Charming, handsome in an effortless way, a man who liked things simple and predictable, set his keys on the table. He never asked why Emily worked from home so often. He believed she did freelance consulting and some small online business stuff. He always said she was cute when she typed fast. He had no idea who she really was. "Long day?" he asked casually, loosening his tie. Emily smiled in that gentle way he liked. "Just the usual." The usual. As if the usual meant overseeing factories, negotiating with investors, and managing 5 separate companies registered under a different last name. Her mother's maiden name, Carter. The memory still hurt the day her parents lost everything. Emily had been 10 when she watched strangers take furniture out of their home. Her father had trusted a business partner who stole from him, leaving the family with nothing. That night, her mother whispered the sentence Emily carried her whole life. "Never tell anyone exactly how much you have." It wasn't paranoia, it was survival. Growing up poor taught Emily how people changed around money, how kindness turned into calculation, how promises dried up the moment hardship came. She learned to smile small, speak softly, and never reveal more than necessary. That fear shaped everything she built. She used a different last name, Carter, for her business. She kept her wealth silent and her lifestyle simple. She dressed modestly, not because she couldn't afford luxury, but because wealth always attracted takers. All of that discipline, all of that secrecy, all to protect herself. Ryan opened the fridge. "Hey, Did you make the credit card payment? I forgot, Emily replied too quickly. Yes, I always handle that. He smiled, relaxed and unbothered. The smile of a man who never worried about bills because his wife always took care of it. He hummed while pouring a drink, not noticing the tightness in Emily's shoulders or the relief in her breath now that her real workload was hidden. He never asked. She never told. Good, Ryan said. I'd hate for us to miss a payment. Emily nodded. He would never imagine she could pay off the entire credit card 10 times over before lunch without touching even 1% of her assets. Her laptop buzzed again. A message from her lead investor flashed briefly on the screen. We need your decision on selling 10% equity for 5M. You said the deadline was this week. Emily's heart skipped. If Ryan saw that, questions would come. Questions she couldn't risk answering. She deleted the notification from the laptop, knowing it would still sit safely in her encrypted work email, waiting for her to answer later from her office. Her fingers trembled not from fear of losing money, but from fear of losing peace. She had built her empire alone, brick by brick, after years of living in someone else's financial ruins. She didn't want Ryan to worry, but more than that, she didn't want anyone to have the power to take from her again. Ryan walked behind her and casually kissed the top of her head. You always look so focused, he said playfully. Sometimes I forget just how smart you are. Emily smiled weakly. If he knew how smart, he wouldn't have forgotten. The laptop buzzed one more time. Emily froze. Another message. Emily, the offer expires tonight. We need your signature. She deleted it. Again. This time she made a mental note. Sign it from the office tomorrow. Away from him. Away from questions. Ryan didn't notice, but the viewers would. And Emily felt something small and cold crawl into her chest, a strange warning she pushed aside. That night, as Emily closed her laptop, she didn't know the first crack in her marriage had already begun, and the next clue would come from a name she hadn't heard in years. Ryan's phone buzzed 3 times in a row, sharp, fast, like 3 punches in the quiet living room. Emily flinched. It was unusual. Ryan never let his phone blow up like that when he was home. He snatched it before the 4th buzz even finished. His face tightened for half a second, just long enough for Emily to feel like ice water slid down her spine. He turned his body slightly away from her as he typed something with incredible speed, and then the screen lit up bright enough for Emily to catch it. Claire M. The name flashed like a warning light before Ryan tilted the screen out of view. Intensity, suspicion, something raw, twisting inside Emily. Then, everything slowed. Ryan forced a smile, too wide and too late. Just work stuff, he said, slipping the phone back into his pocket. They're changing the schedule again. New shift pattern. You know how they are. He worked at a logistics company that did change shifts often. On paper, his excuse made sense. But his eyes didn't match his words. Emily nodded, but her mind did not. Her pulse softened into a quiet ache. She tried to steady her breath, reminding herself not to jump to conclusions. But the name, Claire M., the ex he swore he deleted, blocked, erased from his life. He once said Claire was nothing but drama. The memory replayed itself like an unwanted movie. Flashback 7 years ago. It was during their first year together, when Emily still blushed every time Ryan kissed her forehead. They were sitting inside a small cafe when he told her the story. I broke up with Claire because she only cared about money, he had said, stirring his coffee. Slowly. I want someone real, Em. Someone genuine. He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I'm done with gold diggers forever. Emily believed him. She loved the way he talked about loyalty. She loved the way he said her name soft, almost protective. That trust, it was the foundation she built her marriage on. Now, that foundation felt like it was shifting. The rest of the evening carried a strange tension. Ryan checked his phone more than he spoke. He laughed at messages she wasn't allowed to see. He showered the moment he stepped inside the house, not waiting even a second to greet her properly. Emily noticed every detail. Her heart noticed even more. When he finally came out of the bathroom, smelling like a completely different scent than he usually wore, Emily spoke quietly. You've been distant lately. Ryan kissed her cheek without looking directly at her. Just stress, Em. Work's been insane. My boss keeps moving deadlines, Emily nodded. She didn't want to accuse him. Not yet. But inside, her instincts were waking up. She remembered her mother's voice. When people hide something, their routine is the first thing to change. Ryan's routine wasn't changing. It was collapsing. 2 days later, something small but sharp confirmed her fear. Emily was folding laundry when a crumpled receipt slipped from Ryan's jacket pocket and floated to the floor. She reached down, smoothed it out, and felt her entire chest tighten. 2 glasses of wine, 1 entree, 1 dessert, a bill far too elegant for a work dinner, and the restaurant, a place Ryan always claimed to hate. Too expensive, too fancy, too unnecessary. Emily stared at the date. He told her he had been working late that night. A cold truth pressed against her ribs. Someone was lying. She breathed slowly, letting the shock settle. She didn't want to confront him yet, not until she understood more. Not until she knew whether she was dealing with simple secrecy or something far darker. Late in the evening, after Ryan fell asleep, Emily sat on the edge of the bed with her laptop. She typed slowly, each letter feeling heavier than the last. CLAIREM. Her finger hovered above the enter key. 1 click, and she would know everything. 1 click, and she might break her own heart. Emily took a long breath, almost trembling. But then she stopped. Her finger withdrew. She closed the tab. She shut the laptop. Her screen went blank, just like her decision. She wasn't ready, not until she had proof, not until she pieced together the truth without emotion blinding her. But deep inside her chest, something whispered a warning. Emily didn't know it yet, but the next clue would come not from a screen, but from numbers that never lied. Emily's breath caught the second she opened the joint account. The numbers hit her like a slap. $1,200, $850. Her eyes widened, her pulse jumped, and for a moment the room felt smaller, tighter, like the walls leaned forward to watch. 2 withdrawals, 2 large amounts, both done within 3 days. Her heart thudded through her chest in fierce, uneven beats. She clicked the screen twice, thinking maybe it was a glitch. Maybe the bank app was updating. Maybe no. The numbers stayed exactly the same, and suddenly everything slowed. Emily leaned back in her chair, breathing through her nose, the way she used to when childhood fear tried to choke her. She wasn't panicking, not yet, but her pulse trembled under her skin. "Calm down," she whispered to herself. These weren't life-changing amounts. She could replace them in seconds if she wanted. These numbers were nothing compared to the empire she kept hidden. But this wasn't about the money. It was the pattern. It was the shift. It was the fact that Ryan, the same man who kissed her goodnight last week and told her he was just tired, was suddenly withdrawing amounts big enough to raise eyebrows but small enough to avoid alarms. Her fingers hesitated above the mouse. Then memory unfolded inside her mind. Flashback, age 10. Her mother sat at the kitchen table, scribbling numbers across overdue bills, whispering the same sentence she whispered every time something didn't make sense. If the numbers feel wrong, trust your gut before you trust anyone else. Emily could almost hear her mother saying it now. Her gut was speaking loudly, and it wasn't wrong. She clicked the bank's call button. The ring felt too long, like time itself was stalling. Finally, a soft voice answered. "This is Mark from customer service. How can I help you today?" Emily swallowed, keeping her voice calm. "Hi, I'm calling about 2 recent withdrawals from my joint account." "All right, let me pull that up for you." Keyboard clicking. A short pause. "Yes, I see the 2 transactions. What seems to be the concern?" "They seem unusual." "I didn't make them." She forced her voice not to shake. "Can you tell me how they were done?" The banker hesitated, only a breath, but enough for Emily to feel the hair on her arms lift. "These withdrawals," he said carefully, "were done in person at one of our branches." Emily froze. "In person? As in, inside the branch?" "Yes." Her mouth went dry. "And who authorized them?" "There's a record of identification matching your husband on file," Mark replied. "Because this is a joint account, we can't restrict his access without a formal request. But if you wish, we can flag unusual activity." Emily's stomach dropped like an elevator cut loose from its cables. Ryan. It had to be Ryan. But why withdraw money in person? Why not just use the card? Why make it harder? Her mind spun with possibilities, each one darker than the last. Was he hiding something? Paying someone? Preparing for something? Mark's voice came through again, soft and polite. Would you like us to mark the account for suspicious activity? Emily inhaled slowly. No, not yet, she said. Please document today's call and the transactions. I just needed to understand. Of course, Mrs. Hayes. She hung up and stared at the computer screen. The digits glowed back at her cold, undeniable. $1,200, $850. Her mother was right. If the numbers feel wrong, trust your gut. The room felt heavy with quiet. Emily clicked through her digital files, printing every bank statement for the last 6 months. The printer hummed steadily, sheet after sheet stacking onto the table. She arranged them carefully, making a paper trail without telling a soul. She needed facts before she confronted anything. Facts didn't lie. People did. That night, after dinner, after forced small talk, after watching Ryan scroll on his phone, with the same distant expression he'd been wearing all week, Emily stood beside him in the dim hallway. Her voice was calm, steady, controlled. Did you make any large withdrawals from our account recently? Ryan stiffened. Barely, but enough. Then he turned and smiled, too quick, too easy, too practiced. Of course not. Why? He laughed lightly, as if the idea itself was ridiculous. You know I just used the card. Emily forced her expression to remain blank. No reason, she lied. Ryan kissed her cheek like nothing was wrong. But something was wrong. Very wrong. Emily walked to her home office, locked the door, and looked at the printed statements spread across her desk. The truth was written all over them. The numbers didn't lie. The timing didn't lie. Her gut didn't lie. And neither did the shadows moving through her marriage. As she slid the papers into a folder, a strange thought whispered through her mind. If this was only the beginning, what would she find next when he didn't come home tomorrow night? Emily realized it much later, but the moment the clock hit 11:47 p.m., and Ryan still hadn't come home, that silence hit her like a punch. Her chest tightened, her breath grew sharp. The room seemed colder than usual. This was not normal. Ryan always sent a text. A quick, running late, or traffic is bad. Even on his busiest days he called, but tonight nothing. Emily stood in the living room, holding her phone in a trembling hand. The screen stayed blank. No message, no call, no explanation. She tried calling him. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time, it went straight to voicemail. Her heart pounded too loudly. The quiet around her felt threatening, as if the walls were hiding a truth she wasn't ready to face. Intensity hangs in the air. Then slowly, painfully, slowly, the intensity melted into reflection. The hours began stretching into something painful. Emily sat on the couch, knees pulled close, her eyes fixed on the front door as if she could force it to open just by staring hard enough. But the door stayed shut. She remembered sitting on a couch just like this as a teenager, waiting for her father to come home after losing the family business. He came home defeated, broken, the weight of betrayal crushing him. Emily watched her mother sit in the dark, whispering prayers that someone would walk through the door and say everything was okay. Now here she was grown, married, waiting in the same dark quiet, waiting for someone who should have cared enough to call. Minutes became hours. Midnight poured into 1 a.m., 1 a.m., dragged into 2 a.m. Her phone buzzed. Emily almost dropped it. Her breath caught. For a split second, she thought it was Ryan. But the message wasn't from him. Unknown number. You deserve better. Emily froze. Her heart stilled completely. Her mind raced. The message had no name, no explanation, no details. Just that one sentence, a whisper from someone who knew something. Her first instinct was fear. Her second was suspicion. Her third was confirmation. Someone knew something she didn't. Her hands shook as she held the phone, staring at the message. The number had a local area code, not spam, not foreign. Someone nearby. Was it a prank? A missed dial? Or was someone warning her? Slowly her breath evened out. She calmed herself the way she always did, by thinking, by analyzing, by trusting her mind more than her fear. She saved the number under a neutral label. Unknown. Warning. She didn't reply. Not yet, but she knew this wasn't random. Someone sent that for a reason. She looked back at the door. It felt heavier now, like it blocked not only the outside world but the truth creeping toward her. The clock read 4:18 a.m. The sky outside was still dark, the world still quiet. Then, as morning crept in and the first thin line of sunrise broke across the horizon, the doorknob turned. Emily's breath hitched. Ryan walked in. His clothes were wrinkled. There was a faint smell clinging to him. Something floral, something light, something that did not belong in their home. A perfume she never wore. His hair looked slightly messy, like someone had run fingers through it. Emily's voice came out small, almost fragile. "Where were you?" Ryan barely turned his head. He tossed his keys into the bowl and sighed loudly, annoyed. "Stop being dramatic, Emily." That was all. No apology, no explanation, no guilt, just dismissal. Emily stood there in silence as he walked past her and headed toward the bedroom like nothing was wrong. Like he hadn't been gone all night. Like her worry meant nothing. Like her feelings were an inconvenience. Her heart cracked in a quiet place inside her. Not broken. Not yet, but cracked just enough for fear to slip in. The perfume smell lingered behind him. It wasn't hers. She knew it immediately. And something inside her whispered, he wasn't alone last night. Emily stayed frozen for a moment, gripping her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. She replayed the message again. You deserve better. Someone out there knew what was happening. Someone was watching. Someone was warning her. But who? As she stood there, her phone buzzed again this time, a silent preview at the top of her screen. Bank alert. Unusual activity detected on your joint account. Emily didn't open it. Not yet. Exhaustion washed over her, and she told herself she would look later, when her hands stopped shaking. The answer was coming, and it would hurt. As Emily locked the front door after Ryan finally fell asleep, that bank notification sat waiting on her screen, the first sign of a disappearance she didn't know was about to unfold. Emily's lungs stopped working the second she saw the number. $0. The joint account balance glared at her from the screen, bright and cruel, as if the bank was mocking her. For a moment, she couldn't hear anything but the pounding in her ears. Her chest tightened so hard it felt like her ribs were pressing inward. Her hand flew to her mouth. The entire account, gone, drained, empty. She had only opened the banking app to pay the power bill, just like she always did. One quick transfer, then back to work. Instead, the words balance, $0, stared back at her like a verdict. The shock hit her like a physical blow. Then everything slowed, painfully. Emily's fingers hovered over the trackpad, trembling. She refreshed the page, hoping, begging that there was some error. The wheel spun for a second. She held her breath. She prayed for the numbers to come back, but the page reloaded with the same cold truth. Balance. $0. The world around her blurred. She whispered the only words her mind could form. He took everything that had my name attached to his. Not her empire, not her investments under Carter, but the one account that tied them together, the one thing she left open because she trusted him. Her mind flung backward into memory. Flashback 5 years ago. Ryan gently holding her hands at the kitchen sink, smiling. Let's keep things simple, he'd said. Your savings stay yours. My savings stay mine. But one joint account for the bills, it keeps us close, Em. He kissed her forehead. We should trust each other, right? Emily remembered that moment vividly. Her heart had been warm, full, so sure. She had said yes because she believed love meant unity. She believed sharing even a little piece of her life was a symbol of devotion. Now that symbol was ashes. She stared at the screen, the weight of betrayal pressing on her chest until her bones felt hollow. A tremor ran through her hands. Her throat tightened. Her breath came out uneven, small, and sharp. How could he do this? Why would he do this? She thought of the earlier withdrawals, the $1,200, the $850. At the time, she had told herself she needed more proof before she acted. Now the pattern was complete. Was this about Claire? Was this about running away? About starting over? Her thoughts spun in frantic circles, each one slicing deeper. Slowly, she reached for her phone and dialed the bank. She gripped the device so tightly her knuckles turned white. After 2 rings, a polite voice answered. Thank you for calling. This is Natalie. How can I help you? Emily tried to keep her voice steady. I need to verify a withdrawal from my joint account. What is the amount, ma'am? $22,600, Emily said, swallowing hard. It was removed today, and there were earlier withdrawals this week. I need details on all of them. Another pause. Keyboard clicks. Emily's heart thudded like it was counting down to something terrible. Yes, Natalie said carefully. Those withdrawals were processed in branch. The final one this morning was for $22,600 in cash. The earlier two were also taken as cash. Emily closed her eyes. And who made them? The banker's voice softened, almost apologetic. They were authorized, using your husband's identification, Mrs. Hayes. Emily's stomach dropped. She pressed her palm against her forehead, trying to steady herself. So it was him. No mistake, no accident, no misunderstanding. He stole it. He stole from her. The betrayal wasn't a bruise, it was a wound. But then Natalie continued, her tone shifting, hesitant, uneasy. Mrs. Hayes, there's something else you should know. Emily's breath caught. What? What is it? The banker lowered her voice. After completing the last withdrawal, Mr. Hayes asked if you had any other accounts we should merge with the joint one. He mentioned wanting to put everything together before some big life change. Emily froze. Her world fell utterly silent. What? Other accounts? Emily whispered. That's what we told him, Natalie added quickly. Our system showed no additional accounts linked to your name with us, but he insisted we check again. He seemed very certain there was more. Emily's lips parted slowly. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Ryan had gone to the bank, withdrawn everything, then asked if she had more money. But why would he think that? She never told him. She never showed him anything beyond normal bills. She lived modestly. She hid her empire perfectly, or so she thought. Her voice came out faint. Thank you, that's all. She hung up. The phone slipped from her fingers and landed on the table with a soft thud that felt painfully loud. Emily stared at nothing. Her mind reeled. Ryan was looking for more. He wasn't satisfied with $22,000 and some scattered withdrawals. He believed she had something else, something bigger. Had he seen something? Heard something? Found a piece of mail? Had Claire said something? Her breath trembled. Then Emily's jaw tightened. This wasn't just betrayal. This was intention, purpose, a plan. Her marriage wasn't cracking. It was splitting in half. As Emily rose slowly from her chair, one truth chilled her spine. If Ryan drained the account today, tomorrow he might disappear completely. Emily's breath shattered the moment her phone lit up with a notification from a mutual friends page. She didn't expect the image. She didn't expect the pain. She didn't expect the world to find out before she even understood it herself. Intensity hits first, fast, brutal. Ryan was standing there, smiling like a man in love, his arms wrapped tightly around another woman, a woman with long blonde hair and a familiar smirk. Claire, the ex he claimed was gone for good. The ex he promised he had blocked. The ex he swore meant nothing. But in the photo, Claire meant everything. Her cheek pressed against his, her hand resting on his chest, her eyes full of satisfaction. The caption beneath the picture felt like a blade slicing through Emily's chest. Second chances are worth it. It wasn't just betrayal. It was announcement. Public declaration. Ryan didn't hide this. He wanted people to see. The comments stabbed deeper. Finally back with your soulmate. So glad you left that boring wife. You two look perfect together. Emily's vision blurred. Her throat tightened. Her chest felt hollow. Her fingers trembled with a numbness she couldn't control. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was humiliation. The kind that crawled beneath the skin and squeezed the heart until it barely beat. The kind that made breathing feel like drowning. Just hours earlier, she had stared at their joint account and watched the numbers drop to zero. Now she knew where at least part of that money had gone. Everything slowed, like the world softened around her pain. She lowered her phone to her lap, staring at the image in silence. The house felt colder. The air felt thinner. Her body felt heavier. She tried to swallow, but her throat burned. This wasn't just the night he didn't come home. This wasn't just the drained account. This wasn't just Claire's name on his phone. This was intentional, calculated, cruel. He humiliated her publicly. He announced a new love as if she was nothing. He acted like their marriage was a mistake, he finally corrected. Emily's hands curled slowly into fists, and then her mind pulled her backward into memory she never wanted to relive. Flashback age 12. Emily stood beside her mother as men carried furniture out of their home. A couch, a table, boxes of memories and belongings. Her father stood in the doorway, defeated, destroyed by the betrayal of his own business partner who stole everything they built. Her mother cried in the corner, voice cracking with words Emily would never forget. People take everything if you let them. Those words shaped her entire adult life. Those words built her empire. Those words taught her secrecy, caution, discipline. And here she was again, watching someone she trusted take everything he could reach. But this time, Emily was not a child. She was not powerless. She was not losing her home or her future. She was simply waking up. Her shock slowly shifted something cold, calm, and very alive rising beneath it. Not rage, not yet, but the beginning of something sharper. She lifted her head, her eyes dried, her breathing steadied. Then she placed her phone carefully on the table, as if laying down the last piece of innocence she had left. Emily walked to her office desk and opened her laptop. The familiar login screen appeared, one she used every day but hid from everyone, especially Ryan. She typed her password. Her corporate dashboard loaded instantly. 5 companies, 17 trademarks, dozens of employees, a network of assets and intellectual property worth more than most people would earn in 10 lifetimes. The reality of her life glowed across the screen. Rows of revenue charts, legal documents, distribution contracts, manufacturing updates. Emily's empire. The empire she built alone. The empire based on survival. The empire designed so no one could ever destroy her again. Emily whispered to herself, voice steady and low. You think you left me with nothing? Not spoken with bitterness, not spoken with anger, but spoken with awakening. She looked at the photo again, Ryan, smiling like he'd won something. He thought draining the joint account would cripple her. He thought walking out with Claire would break her. He thought she was small, dependent, weak. Emily stared at the empire on her screen. He had no idea who he'd betrayed. Her fingers rested on the touchpad, her mind already calculating. She wasn't thinking about heartbreak anymore. She was thinking about strategy. And as Emily pulled up her financial records, one chilling question settled in her mind. If Ryan stole everything he could see, what would he do when he realized how much she'd kept hidden? The elevator doors slid open with a metallic snap, and Emily stepped out with a force she didn't recognize in herself. Her heels struck the polished hallway floor harder than usual, sharp, echoing, urgent. Intensity hit immediately. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't crying. She wasn't broken. She was focused. And the man she was walking toward, the only person who knew the real shape of her hidden world, was waiting with the door already half open, sensing her storm before she even spoke. Daniel Reed, her lawyer, her strategist, her silent guardian for the last 8 years. He was in his early 40s, calm-eyed, sharp-minded, the kind of man who never reacted to chaos, he converted it into advantage. He stood as she entered, his expression tightening just slightly when he saw the look in her eyes. What happened? He asked, voice low and controlled. Emily didn't speak at first. She simply placed the printed bank statements on his desk, page after page after page of betrayal, starting from the small, early withdrawals to the final emptying of the joint account. Daniel skimmed the first sheet, then the second, then his jaw locked. He looked up at her, no softness in his voice now. Emily, what he did is fraud. She said nothing. Daniel continued, flipping to another highlighted withdrawal. And these in-person transactions, done right before he left, tied to his new relationship? This is marital theft and malicious dissipation of assets. Emily finally inhaled, her voice steady but hollow. He drained everything he believed I had. Daniel nodded slowly, but he didn't even scratch the surface. She reached into her bag and set down a small black flash drive on the table. This is everything. Daniel's brows lifted. He knew Emily never came unprepared. She was a planner, a strategist, a woman who built an empire from fear and discipline. But the weight of that flash drive, it carried history. As he plugged it in, Emily spoke quietly. I kept records, she said, backup logs, itemized withdrawals. Every transaction from the day we married. Data unfolded on his screen timelines, spreadsheets, email alerts. Emily continued, her voice measured. I also asked the bank last year to send alerts for any withdrawal over a certain amount. Not because I expected this, but because I saw a pattern. Little things. Unexplained cash. I didn't confront him then. I just documented. Daniel paused in his typing. A pattern? She looked away for a moment. He grew up with money problems. He hated it. When we started dating, he promised he wouldn't fall back into old habits. But I saw signs years ago, so I protected myself quietly. Daniel leaned back in his chair, seeing the bigger picture now. So every transfer he made is traceable, he said. Every lie he thought was invisible is documented. Emily nodded. That's why I'm here. I don't want emotional comfort. I want truth. I want order. And I want the law on my side. Daniel's expression shifted, calculation settling into place. He closed the flash drive window and folded his hands beneath his chin. Emily, he said slowly, this isn't just a simple divorce anymore. What he did, combined with his intent, this is premeditated financial exploitation. He tapped a printed statement with his finger. And asking the bank whether you had other accounts after draining the joint one? That shows malicious intent. Emily's jaw tightened. He wanted to empty me. Daniel let silence settle, heavy but purposeful. Then he smirked just slightly. A lawyer's smirk. The kind that appears only when the case is already leaning in his favor before it even begins. Tell me, he said softly, do you want financial recovery or total destruction? Emily didn't blink. Her voice carried a cold clarity she had never used before. I want the truth to bury them. Daniel slowly reached into his drawer and slid out a thick file, dark blue cover, silver clip, heavy with legal weight. He placed it in front of her with deliberate care. On the front, in bold letters, petition for dissolution cause. Fraud and malicious intent. Emily stared at the file. Not with sadness, not with heartbreak, but with recognition. This wasn't the end of her marriage. It was the beginning of exposing the man who thought she was small. Emily, Daniel said quietly, once we file this, everything changes. He'll try to fight. He'll try to twist the story. He might even think he can negotiate. Emily lifted her eyes. He won't negotiate with me, she said. Not after what he's done. Daniel studied her for a long moment, then nodded. You're ready. She didn't deny it. He pulled out the last document she needed to sign and slid it across the desk. Emily reached for the pen. Her phone buzzed. The name on the screen made her freeze. It wasn't Ryan. It wasn't a bank alert. It was the same unknown number that had texted, "You deserve better." The warning she'd ignored days ago had just become a person asking to meet. The moment Emily hit send on the internal audit request to her compliance team, the intensity hit like a thunderclap. Her empire moved. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with silent, unstoppable force. Inside her main office, a team of 6 compliance analysts, all loyal to her, all trained to protect her companies, received the internal alert. Their screens lit up with flagged reimbursements, transfers, and expense reports connected to one name, Ryan Hayes. This was not a simple bank report anymore. This was a forensic sweep of every financial bridge that connected Emily's business world to her personal life. And it began quickly. Lines of data scrolled across their monitors. Dates, amounts, locations. Repayment transfers Emily had made into the joint account. Cash reimbursements Ryan insisted on. Card swipes within walking distance of Claire's apartment. Hotel reservations labeled as work travel. During nights, he claimed to be out for overtime. Every number dropped like a hammer. Then, slowly, the pace shifted. Emily leaned back in her chair at home, breathing carefully, letting the storm inside her settle into sharp focus. Her lawyer Daniel had filed the petition. Her evidence was airtight. Her company's audit would build the rest. She watched the live update feed as each flagged action turned from yellow to red. Misappropriated funds, unauthorized spending, intentional concealment. It was strange, almost surreal. She didn't feel anger. She didn't even feel hurt. Just understanding, quiet, heavy understanding. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. People take everything if you let them. Emily had lived her entire life preparing for this truth. She didn't let people take. She let them believe she had nothing worth taking. Until now. Now Ryan had pushed too far. Now he had taken from the wrong woman. Her compliance director, Trudy, mid-50s, sharp eyes, loyal since day one, called her directly. "Emily, we've completed the cross-check," Trudy said. "His withdrawals from your joint account overlap with every payment connected to Claire." Emily didn't blink. "Document everything." "We already are," Trudy said. "And there's more." A pause. "What is it?" "Claire's new apartment," Trudy continued, "the one she moved into 2 months ago. The deposit was funded entirely by transfers from your joint account. The trail is clean. We matched dates, amounts, and your bank statements." Emily's jaw tightened. "So he used my money for his affair?" "Yes. And because the joint account was maintained almost entirely by transfers from your businesses and salary, the funds he used can be classified as malicious dissipation of marital assets. Meaning, he stole from the marriage, he stole from her, he involved another woman, and now it was all provable." Trudy exhaled. "We're forwarding everything to," quote, "Daniel's office. Once he submits this to the court, they can request temporary restraining orders and freezes on any accounts linked to the misused funds." Emily nodded, calm and steady. "Do it." She hung up slowly. By late afternoon, Daniel had filed the motions. The court moved faster than Ryan ever imagined it could. Orders went through, notices went out. Banks received instructions to freeze disputed funds, pending investigation. Then somewhere across the city, Ryan swiped his debit card. Declined. He frowned, tried it again. Declined. He muttered something under his breath, pulled out his phone, and checked his balance. Account frozen. Pending investigation. His eyes widened. What the hell? He drove to an ATM, inserted the card, entered his PIN. Access denied. Ryan's breath hitched. His chest tightened with the first sting of panic. He tried calling the bank, placed on hold, rerouted, asked to verify information. He cursed under his breath, pacing outside, the machine like a trapped animal. Inside Claire's apartment, Claire was sitting on the couch scrolling through her banking app. She froze. Her eyes widened. Her voice sharpened. "Ryan!" He stormed inside. "What?" "I'm dealing with something." Claire shoved her phone into his chest. "Why is my account flagged too?" Ryan stared at the notification on her screen. Funds temporarily restricted pending fraud review. Source: joint account of Emily and Ryan Hayes. Ryan's heart dropped. This has to be a mistake. Claire's expression hardened. "It says the money used for my apartment is under investigation." "Fraud, Ryan. What did you do?" Ryan stepped back, confusion twisting into fear. I don't know. There must be a mistake. I didn't commit fraud." Claire crossed her arms tightly. "Then why is the money traced to your wife's account?" He froze. His mind scrambled through possibilities. The bank? Some system error? Someone reporting him? And then a single terrifying thought hit him. Emily, his wife, the woman he underestimated, the woman he walked out on, the woman he mocked online, the woman he thought was weak. His chest tightened. His breathing quickened. He grabbed his phone and dialed the bank again, palms sweating. Claire's voice sliced through the room. "You better fix this, Ryan. I'm not going down with you." Across the city, Emily sat calmly at her desk, watching new alerts roll in from Daniel and Trudy. Every account tied to the misused funds turned gray, then black, then locked. Her empire was working exactly as designed. Quiet, efficient, unstoppable. She whispered to herself, almost gently, "This is only the first step." And as the final account froze solid, Emily received a new message from the unknown number, this time with an address that would expose the next secret Ryan hoped she'd never see. The courtroom doors swung open with a heavy thud, and the entire room turned toward the sudden noise. Intensity hit instantly. Weeks had passed since the accounts froze. Weeks of filings, statements, and lawyers. Ryan Hayes now stood near the defense table, looking nothing like the man who once polished his image so carefully. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes swollen from nights of panic. He looked like a man who had spent days fighting a battle he wasn't prepared for. Behind him sat Claire, arms crossed, legs shaking, her face pale with fear. She kept glancing at the courtroom doors like she wanted to run. Then the air shifted. Emily walked in, calm, straight-backed, controlled. She wore a simple black dress, nothing flashy, nothing loud, yet the entire room felt smaller the moment she stepped inside. Her presence was quiet power, the kind that doesn't need announcement, the kind that terrifies guilty people more than raised voices. Ryan stiffened when he saw her. Claire looked away as if burned. Emily didn't look at either of them. She walked directly to her seat beside Daniel, her lawyer, who stood the moment she arrived. "You're ready?" he whispered. Emily nodded once. "Yes." The judge entered. Everyone rose. Everyone sat. The silence was thick, heavy with anticipation. Daniel stepped forward first. "Your Honor," he began coldly, "today we present evidence of financial fraud, marital theft, malicious dissipation of assets, and intentional concealment, all carried out by Mr. Kidam, Ryan Hayes, and partially benefiting Miss Claire Montgomery." Emily kept her gaze steady. She didn't blink. Daniel clicked a remote. The first slide appeared on the screen. Bank statements, withdrawals, dates, amounts. Every number highlighted, every lie documented, every betrayal undeniable. Murmurs rippled across the courtroom. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. He swallowed hard. But Daniel wasn't finished. He clicked again. Photos. Ryan and Claire smiling at a restaurant, holding hands outside a hotel, kissing in a parking lot. All dated. All paid with money that could be traced back to the joint account, Emily maintained. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. Her shoulders shook. Someone in the back whispered, "Oh my gosh." Daniel clicked again. Receipts, jewelry, clothing, apartment deposits, all traced back to stolen marital money. Each item labeled with the legal term, purchased with dissipated assets. Ryan lowered his head. Claire looked sick. Then came the final blow. Daniel pulled up a screenshot of text between Ryan and Claire, obtained after Claire's sister agreed to cooperate and turned over backups. Ryan's message was displayed in bright, brutal letters. "Don't worry, I drained her. We'll start fresh." A gasp swept the courtroom. Someone whispered, "He said that?" Another muttered, "That's disgusting." Claire covered her face, her fingers trembling. She knew the texts were real. She knew she couldn't defend the man beside her. But Daniel raised a hand. "One final piece of evidence, Your Honor." Emily reached into her bag and placed a USB on Daniel's open palm. Her movements were slow, precise, not emotional, not angry, just sure. Daniel inserted it into his laptop and played the audio. A woman's voice echoed through the silent courtroom. "You deserve better. I saw him with Claire again. You need to be careful. He's planning something." Emily recognized it instantly. The anonymous message from weeks ago. Daniel turned to the judge. "This is Claire's sister, Your Honor." After the account freezes, she came forward. She provided texts, call logs, and this voicemail, warning Mrs. Hayes before the final withdrawal. She believed Ryan was using both women. Gasps again. Eyes widened. Claire's face turned bright red, humiliation and betrayal hitting her all at once. Ryan shot her a look of shock. "You, your sister?" Claire shook her head angrily. "I didn't know, Ryan. She warned me too. You lied to both of us." The MSN courtroom descended into whispers, waves of judgment, pity, and outrage. Finally, the judge raised a hand. Silence fell. He looked directly at Ryan, his voice deep and controlled. "Mr. Hayes, is there anything you want to say before I issue my ruling?" Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes darted from Emily to the floor. He spoke in a weak whisper. I didn't know she had money." The judge stared at him for a long, cold moment. Then he delivered a line that sliced through the room. "And that," he said, "is the tragedy of your life." Claire exhaled shakily. Ryan's shoulders collapsed. Emily remained perfectly still. The judge lifted his gavel. The entire room leaned forward, ready, waiting, bracing. Emily's breath held in her chest. The gavel fell. Crack. On the video version of this story, the audio cut there, leaving only the echo of the gavel and the silence that followed. The ruling itself would come next. As the courtroom fell still, Emily's phone buzzed. Someone had just sent her the location Ryan planned to run to after the ruling, and the name attached would change everything. The courtroom air was still charged when the judge lifted the papers containing the ruling. The intensity was immediate, sharp enough to make Ryan straighten as if trying to catch one last breath of hope. Emily sat calm, silent, unreadable. The judge cleared his throat. After reviewing the evidence, financial documents, communication records, and witness testimony, the court rules in favor of Mrs. Emily Hayes. Ryan's shoulders collapsed. The judge continued, each line striking like a hammer. Mrs. Hayes will receive full financial restitution. Mr. Hayes is responsible for repaying all stolen funds, plus damages. Any assets purchased with misappropriated money are to be returned immediately. And due to evidence of intentional deceit, Mr. Hayes will face additional investigation for criminal financial misconduct. Gasps spread through the room. Claire gripped the sides of her chair, face draining of color. The judge turned a page. And regarding Miss Selm, Claire Montgomery, based on recorded messages and her involvement with assets knowingly paid for or benefiting from stolen funds, she will also be investigated as a potential accessory. Claire shot to her feet. What? I didn't, Ryan. Tell them. Tell them I didn't know. Ryan didn't say a word. He just stared down at his trembling hands. Claire's eyes filled with horror as the bailiff stepped forward to escort her for questioning. She ripped her arm away and stormed out of the courtroom, leaving Ryan alone. Completely alone. Only then did Emily rise. Her lawyer Daniel whispered, "It's done." But Emily wasn't smiling. She wasn't celebrating. She felt something deeper. Clarity, strength, release. As she walked toward the exit, Ryan scrambled up behind her. "Emily, wait. Please." His voice cracked. "We can fix this. I can explain." She paused in the hallway, but she didn't turn yet. She just listened to his desperate breaths, the same breaths he had never wasted on her pain. Slowly, she faced him. Ryan looked ruined, hair messy, eyes wet, shirt wrinkled, hands shaking. The image of a man who had gambled everything and lost. "Emily, I messed up. I didn't know you had anything." He swallowed. "I just thought you were normal." Her eyes hardened. "That's your problem, Ryan. You never tried to understand me. You never cared to learn who I was when I wasn't cooking your dinners or folding your laundry." He flinched. She stepped closer, her voice calm but sharp enough to break him. "You didn't just steal money. You stole trust. You stole dignity. You tried to drain a woman you never took time to know. A breath. And you lost a woman worth $50 million because you were chasing someone who didn't even know the truth about you." Ryan's mouth parted, but no words came. Emily stepped back, making the boundary visible. "I didn't win today because I'm rich," she added quietly. "I won because I documented everything while you thought I wasn't paying attention." Then she turned, walked out into the bright sunlight. No rain, no storm, just a clear, open sky that felt like freedom stretching in front of her. Outside, reporters tried shouting questions, but she didn't stop. She didn't need noise. She didn't need attention. She only needed peace, and she had earned it. Later that afternoon, Emily stood inside her office, the real one, not the modest desk at home. Floor-to-ceiling windows washed the room with natural light. Her staff handed her a stack of documents for the $5 million equity deal. Her investor had reminded her of the week everything fell apart. She read them carefully, breathed in, and signed her name with a steady hand. Emily Carter Hayes, CEO and founder. Then she quietly crossed out the Hayes. The pen stroke was slow, deliberate, final. Now the signature read, Emily Carter, CEO and founder. Letting go of the last piece of Ryan was not painful, it was cleansing. She placed the signed deal into a folder and locked it into her safe. Her life was no longer tied to a man who saw her as small. Her life belonged to the woman who built everything with discipline, purpose, and strength. Emily stepped back, looked around her office, and finally allowed herself a small smile. Narration whispered softly through her thoughts. And this was only chapter 1 of Reclaiming My Life. She turned off the lights, closed the door behind her, and walked into a future she built with her own hands. Somewhere on a server, the full video of her story, titled exactly as she wanted it, sat ready for thousands of women to watch. Not as a tale of heartbreak, but as a warning, a blueprint, and a quiet promise that you can lose a man and still win your life. And as Emily logged out for the night, one new message slid into her inbox from a woman whose husband had just emptied their account, reminding her that her story was no longer just hers. It had become a lifeline. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in my next video.